The Pakistan Army in 2020. The Pakistan Army has approximately 560,000 active duty personnel, supported by the Army Reserve and National Guard, effectively making it the 15th army in the world in terms of manpower. Pakistani citizens can enlist for voluntary military service upon reaching 16 years of age, but cannot be deployed for combat until age 18 in accordance with the Constitution of Pakistan. The Pakistan Army's primary objective and constitutional mission is to ensure the national security and national unity of Pakistan by defending it against external aggression or the threat of war. It can also be requisitioned by the federal government to respond to internal threats by enforcing security to keep the peace within its land borders. During events of national and international calamities and emergencies, it conducts humanitarian rescue operations at home and is an active participant in peacekeeping missions mandated by the United Nations, most notably playing a major role in rescuing trapped American soldiers who had requested for a quick reaction force during Operation Gothic Serpent in Somalia. Troops from the Pakistan Army also had a relatively strong presence as part of a larger UN and NATO coalition during the Bosnian War and larger Yugoslav wars. 70. The Pakistan Army, a major component of the Pakistani military alongside the Pakistan Navy and Pakistan Air Force, is a volunteer force that has seen extensive combat during 3 major wars with neighboring India, several border skirmishes on its porous border with Afghanistan, as well as a long-running insurgency in Balochistan which it has been combating alongside Iranian security forces since 1948. 31. Since the 1960s, elements of the army have been repeatedly deployed to act in an advisory capacity in the Arab states during the events of the Arab-Israeli wars, as well as to aid the United States-led coalition against Iraq in the First Gulf War. Other notable military operations during the global war on terror in the 21st century included Zab-e-Azb, Black Thunderstorm, and Ra-e-Nijat. In violation of its constitutional mandate, it has repeatedly overthrown elected civilian governments, overreaching its protected constitutional mandate to act in the aid of civilian federal governments when called upon to do so. The army has been involved in enforcing martial law against the federal government with the claim of restoring law and order in the country by dismissing the legislative branch and parliament on multiple occasions in past decades, while maintaining a wider commercial, foreign and political interest in the country. This has led it facing allegations of acting as state within a state. The Pakistan Army has a regimental system but is operationally and geographically divided into command zones, with its most basic fields being the various corps. The Constitution of Pakistan mandates the role of the President of Pakistan as the civilian Commander-in-Chief of the Pakistani military. The Pakistan Army is commanded by the Chief of Army Staff, who is by statute a 4-star ranking general and a senior member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee appointed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan and subsequently affirmed by the President. As of January 2021, the current Chief of Army Staff is General Qamar Javed Bajwa, who was appointed to the position on the 29th of November 2016. Its existence and constitutional role are protected by the Constitution of Pakistan, where its role is to serve as the land-based uniform service branch of the Pakistan Armed Forces. The Constitution of Pakistan establishes the principal land warfare uniform branch in the Pakistan Armed Forces as it states, "The armed forces shall, under the directions of the federal government, defend Pakistan against external aggression or threat of war, and, subject to law, act in aid of civil power when called upon to do so." The Pakistan Army came into its modern birth from the division of the British Indian Army that ceased to exist as a result of the partition of India that resulted in the creation of Pakistan on the 14th of August 1947. 1-2 Before even the partition took place, there were plans ahead of dividing the British Indian Army into different parts based on the religious and ethnic influence on the areas of India. 1-2 On the 30th of June 1947, the War Department of the British administration in India began planning the dividing of the 400,000 men strong British Indian Army. But that only began few weeks before the partition of India that resulted in violent religious violence in India. 1-2 The Armed Forces Reconstitution Committee under the chairmanship of British Field Marshal Sir Claude Affleck had devised the formula to divide the military assets between India and Pakistan, with ratio of 2:1, respectively. Cons. A major division of the army was overseen by Sir Chandulal Madhavlal Trivedi, an Indian civil servant who was influential in making sure that approximately 260,000 men would be transferred into forming